You're listening to The Last Easy Mile, a show for men who know there's more waiting but aren't sure where to begin. I'm Josh Farahi. Whether it's carving out space for adventure, being a more present and intentional father, reconnecting with your physical edge, or rediscovering a forgotten skill, this podcast is about moving from stuck to in motion. Each episode explores that in-between moment, right before the leap, when the excuses run out and something real needs to begin. We cover fatherhood, work, faith, creativity, and what it means to keep showing up, especially when no one's coming to rescue you. Welcome to The Last Easy Mile. Let's walk it together. Want to get back into adventure, want to find themselves, whether it's fatherhood, whatever it is, spirituality. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to put together, a community here. And I think you're very much in line with that thought process, and I'm glad to have you, and I appreciate your time. It's the most generous thing people can give to each other is their time, and I appreciate it.
No, very cool, man. No, honors mine. I appreciate the mission there.
So, Matt, I've been following you along for some time now. I mean, I'm a parent of three young kids, and I'm sure you've heard this from many parents across the country is, we're concerned on multiple levels, right? It's number one, the curriculum is outdated, and we're teaching the same stuff to kids, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's outdated, and the world is much more complex. And then, of course, you got the woke mind virus is creeping in, especially where I live in California. And other coastal places, and really across the country, and we're concerned about that as parents. And then more than that, we're concerned just that the kids these days are being that mediocrity is kind of the standard, and there's no commitment to excellence in any facet of life. And so those are kind of our broad concerns as parents. I think we're trending in the right direction, kind of pushing back on some of that woke stuff and being more balanced. And for the record, I think a balanced, I'm okay with kids being taught a worldview as long as all worldviews are being taught. And there's certain things out of each worldview that are necessary and part of life. And I grew up in a more balanced household, but as time has gone on, that the balance has been kind of out of whack, I think, for all of us. And so when I found you, and I was like, wow, these guys kind of get it. They're preaching what I'm thinking. And I also noticed that in the background you have the man in the arena quote, which is my all-time favorite quote, and I have it in my son's room. So
Nice.
For those listening,
Nice.
man in the arena, it's one of my favorites. So Matt, I'll let you introduce yourself. Briefly, you're a father, an entrepreneur, a educator, a speaker, and so tell us a little about yourself and how you got on this journey, and let us know what you're all about, bud.
Cool, man. I appreciate that. What part of California are you in? Because my
Los
story
Angeles.
starts there too. What part are you in?
Los Angeles.
You're in LA? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
man. I grew up in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And then grew up in the Bay, and then my wife and I we realized we were going to be 80 before we could ever buy anything in the Bay. We were both working at Stanford University, and we moved to the Sacramento area, which we spent a little over 10 years out there before moving out here to a farm in the mountains of North Carolina. But I'm a California kid, born and raised, man. And I always tell people my story started when I was really 4, and I'm not taking you through from 4 to where I am now, 45. But my story started there because at 4, I started kindergarten young. And I remember very early on figuring out that there was a game going on in school. I remember at 4 years old in kindergarten going, oh, okay, well, I see how they just grouped us together here. Those are the kids that can't read yet. Those kids read a little better than them. Those kids are even better than them. And then this table that I'm at, these are the kids that read all the time and read very easily. Interesting. I remember thinking that in kindergarten.
Wow.
And it wasn't too much longer after that. When I was about 8 years old, I went, okay, I've got this whole game of school figured out. I'll never get anything less than an A. This is easy. Not because I'm that smart, but because I figured out that there was a game going on and there's a way to play this game. If you can figure out a way to play the game, like, there you go, right? So I got my straight A's all through school. But getting straight A's all through school, I realized at the end of, graduating high school, was like, shoot, okay, I know how to play school. I know how to play school. I know how to play sports. I know how to talk to girls. Like I'm
Right.
social. Like, cool. That sounds great. Oh dear God. Now I'm supposed to do something like adult-ish. Right. And so
Right.
I move out of the house at 17. I better go to college because that's what everybody else does. Go to college and it's the same thing. And you come out and you're like, shoot, well, now I'm really supposed to be an adult. Now I have college debt. Now I've got, what do I offer the world? Right. And so that's why I say things started then. Luckily working, I at least had a work ethic. And so it was eventually brings me to Stanford University a few years later, working there. And I see a lot of these kids going through the same thing. And so, they're very, very smart. They're really solid in the academics, but some of them are being crushed by life. They have no idea where they're going. They don't have skills that you need in life, those meta skills that matter, the emotional, you know, yeah, the ability to handle themselves emotionally, the ability to communicate well, the ability, these things are lacking. So naively, I went, okay, well, I'm going to go fix this by going into the public school system. Right. And
Yeah.
so
Good
I
luck.
become a
Yeah.
teacher in California.
Yeah.
And then you start learning what you learn there. So I was a teacher, I was an administrator, private schools, teacher, administrator, ultimately went, well, I don't want my own children going through a system like this. Started building my own campuses and things have taken off since there. So now with Apogee, we've got about 140 campuses right now.
Nice. Yeah, I noticed that online. You guys are spreading pretty quickly because I think your
Yes, sir.
message is resonating. Um, what are the main differences? Well, walk us through Apogee as a whole, right? For those
Yeah.
that aren't familiar, and then we can kind of drill into some of those details about what you guys kind of
Yeah.
teach.
So we've got the way we describe our organization is we have a number of different fingers all on the same hand. So the fingers can operate by themselves, or they can all come together and kind of be this hand of grasping sovereignty and freedom. So it really is education for the entire family. So we have got mentorship programs. So we have a mentorship program specifically for young men. So we're talking teenage young men. We got a mentorship program for young women. We got a mentorship program for men. We've got a mentorship program for women. And when I say mentorship, it really is mentorship. It really is personal development. It's education. It is
Hmm.
moving them forward in the things that matter in life. And then we have mentorship for families that are home educating. And all of those things are brought together on our physical campuses. And so we help people launch businesses of their own if they want to bring all of this to their community and run it as their business. We help them do that as an Apogee affiliate. So we've got campuses that are running, kindergarten through university programs while also mentoring those families. So that's really what we are, is full life education for the entire family.
Nice. And you guys have some like wildly big names associated, not only on the I would say the leadership side of the business itself or the community itself, Tim Kennedy and some others, but your mentorship list is pretty wild. How did you put all those folks together and how long did that take?
It's the mission, man. Like that's really
Uh,
what they've responded to, right? Is the mission. So yeah, if you go to our website, I mean, you see people that have come in as mentors and all of them, if they're there on the website, it means they have come in and poured in directly in some regard at some point, some more than others. But
mhm.
I mean, they've all come in and spoken directly, at least to and with at least one of our groups. And it really is the mission. When I go to, some of these bigger names and go, hey man, here's who we are, here's what we're doing, and we're doing it because we believe strong families will help solve a lot of the issues we see in our country. Period. End of
100%.
story. Full stop. Right.
100%.
When we say that, they tend to be on board. And we're not framing it like, hey, you've got to have this specific mindset, or you have to come from this specific background. You have to have this specific belief. No, no, no. We're saying you need to live by a code of integrity and honor, but it's okay to disagree. We can have disagreeing ideas, but you're going to do it as an honorable human. And we want to see mom, dad, and all the kids be the best possible versions of themselves. We think if everybody can do that, we're going to be in a good spot. People get on board with that mission, man. So it's not a hard ask,
Right.
really. And now
Right.
a lot of those people have become friends.
Right. Matt, when you were an educator here in California,
Yeah.
what were the biggest issues that you saw? I mean, some of them are obvious, but what are some of the biggest issues you saw and thought, I can plug. There's an opportunity here, not only to help folks, but to shore up what's missing.
It's a good question, man. There's a few things that stood out the most. One, the conveyor belt model that most of us grew up, going through that model of schooling. It's not built around human development, and it's not built around providing what I call, again, the meta skills, the skills that everybody needs for all time. We isolate things as if subjects were something to be disconnected from all of reality, and we focus everything on getting kids to go through these specific subjects, everybody same thing, same time. That's an obvious one that is an issue. And I saw it most specifically, working in Central Valley and in California, had some extraordinarily intelligent young people, brilliant young people, but they were, going home to families that didn't value education, or going home to families that were, involved in gangs. And they're like, hey, when you get home, you're going to go sell drugs from the porch, right? And it's like, okay, well, this kid needs to see that he's extraordinarily brilliant and he's got so many other avenues that he can go. He needs some direct mentorship. And the school's like, no. He needs to pass this algebra test. He needs to get a good standardized test score. That's not what's going to help him right now. That's not the game that he's playing right now. So it's this inherent disconnect between the game of school and the game of life, right? You can be really good at school and still really blow it in all the areas in life that matter. You can still be wildly unhealthy, have no spiritual pursuit, have no good relationships, not understand finances,
Yep.
at all, not have a way to build out a sovereign life, but shit, you got your straight A's. Okay.
Right. Right.
And we also pretend the opposite's also true. Well, if somebody didn't do well in school and on standardized tests, well, then obviously they're going to go to prison, right? And that's obviously not true either. So that obvious disconnect. I saw the disconnect in where we've been trending with parents, and so broken homes, or mom and dad are home, but mom and dad's example, as it should, by the way, is outshining any positive example we're bringing in school. Mom and dad's example should always matter the most, and it always will. But if mom and dad's example is not a solid example, well, then we're in trouble, right?
Sure.
And so I got these amazing kids, and they're taking to our mentorship, and they're taking, like, yes, we see this, we see the potential in ourselves, we're working really hard, and then they go home, and mom and dad are transferring a negative way of life, or mom and dad are transferring a negative mentality, or mom and dad are not leading by example. That's a hard thing to get around, which is why we put the men's and women's mentorship in with what we do. Those were the two biggest glaring things. But then there was also things like physical health. We're taking physical education really out of school, or it's now a ridiculous version of dodgeball. Parents are signing their kids out from having to exercise. We're feeding them prison food that's can't even really be considered food.
Yep.
Right. And then we're talking a quote unquote mental health crisis when all we're doing is feeding them a bunch of physical garbage and not so we're destroying their physical health, which is the foundation of mental health. So those are some of the big ones. There's a bunch of ancillary, but those are a few of the biggest.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Another thing that I see, I had Chris McKenna on my last, I don't know if you've heard of Protect Young Eyes. It's a group that's really
was it
advocating.
Kind of cut out right there on your end?
It's a Protect Young Eyes. He's an advocate for
Protect Young Eyes. Yeah.
I had Chris on last episode, and he said something that really resonated with me, and he says that intellect, given what with AI is coming, is no longer gonna be as big a part of society. It's not going to separate us as much, intellect. So those that know how to live life in a meaningful way and understand how to use technology is what's going to separate us more in the future. And so, on that note, what is your position on that? And are you guys prepping kids and teaching them about the dangers of AI and the benefits of it, and then the algorithms and social media and all that stuff? Because my kids don't learn any of that, and
Yeah.
it's something that's so critical, because if they don't know that, they're doomed to be abused by it.
Yeah, man, it's a really good. So again, we take a look at certain things that are meta skills, and then we take a look at anything else that would be categorized outside of that. So when I say meta skills, I'm talking like physical health. You're in your body for the rest of your life. That always matters. You're going to
Hmm.
need to understand how to communicate with another human being and
Right.
have interpersonal relationships. Period. End of story. That's always going to matter. The communication piece itself, like written, verbally, okay, cool. Like that's always going to matter. The financial aspect is always going to matter. You're going to have to understand how to, make money, save money, invest money, give money. Like you're going to have to understand how
Hmm.
that actually works. What are opportunities that are there? How does that continue to change? Like these are meta skills. AI, the integration of technology, has really come in as a meta skill. We can't
Hmm.
avoid it. AI and technology in general is an interesting one because you have to inherently ask the question, um, when does that get introduced and at what level does it get introduced? So technology is not going away.
Hmm.
Shocker. Way, right?
Yeah.
It's not going away.
Right.
So we can pretend that, well, nobody needs it and the kids don't need it at all ever, and so it's bad for the screens and the brains, and that's not wrong, but we also can't pretend that that means they'll never come across technology. So it's exactly,
Yeah.
it's what you said. We have to go, okay, what are the solid uses for it? What are the negative uses for it? And when do you start having these conversations, and what exposure and when? I'm all for parents who are like, screens out of the house and, until they're 8, 12, 14. Great. Cool. I'm all for it. And then at some point in those teenage years, when they're developmentally appropriate, it's developmentally appropriate, you have to go, okay, here's how we use it
Yeah.
appropriately. And that doesn't mean we're exposed. I've got 14-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 9-year-old. My 14-year-old, 12-year-old, and 9-year-old all know what they can and cannot do on the internet. None of them have any access to social media whatsoever. We're very intentional about when they get stuff and what they have
That's right.
access to, and
That's right.
have those conversations.
That's right. You guys, you're an advocate for homeschooling. Although Apogee
Mm-hmm.
isn't a full homeschooling program, I think it's partial. Tell us, kind of what your curriculum is like, what you guys emphasize, and what are the major differences maybe between you and other homeschooling programs?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. So yeah, we are advocates for home education because, um, one of the in our campuses, again, some are full on private schools, some of them are more homeschool co-ops, and then we do have a couple hundred families that we bring through the home education, just a home education journey every year. One of the ways, again, the way we look at education, G.K. Chesterton had a great quote, and he was talking about the fact that education is not a bunch of disconnected subjects. It has nothing to do with subjects. It has everything to do with the transfer of a way of life from one person or entity to another.
Mm.
Right. So when you start to take a look at what education really means, and again, part of what we differentiate is that education and school are not the same thing. School is a specific religion, it's a specific system. Education just means growth. Education just means getting better. Education is
Right.
wildly personal because it's you becoming the best version of you. So when you start to take a look at that, parents inherently are the number one educator for their children. They start the minute those children come out. Parents
Hmm.
are educating those young people. They are transferring their way of life to that young person immediately. So when we talk to parents and they're like, "Oh, I could never home educate," I'm like, "How old's your child?" "Oh, my child's 4." "Cool. What have you done? You haven't seen them since they were born then?" They're like, "Well, no, I take care of them every day." I'm like, "Well, shoot.
You're
Looks like
educated
you
now.
have been
Yeah.
you've been homeschooling for 4 years then, right? And what school did you send them to learn how to walk? What school did you send them to learn how to, does your child speak English? Yeah, my child, it speaks English. Well, cool. What school did you send them to learn that? Well, none. I just, exactly. So you've been educating them the entire time. So when we take a look at, the curriculum we provide our families, it's much more, and I hate the word, this word's abused, but it's real for us. It's much more of a holistic thing where we go, okay, what does the family schedule look like? What do the family goals look like? Like going day in, day out, what do mom and dad want from life? And how do we help them get it? Because one of the best ways to educate, since it's a transfer of a way of life, one of the best ways to educate your kids is to simply get better yourself and
Mm-hmm.
bring them along. And I know that sounds crazy, right? But I'll ask parents, anybody that's listening, from a financial standpoint, do you understand how trust systems work? How many types of trusts are there that your family can participate in? If you don't know, it's because you just haven't done it, and that's okay. We understand, we dove in. There's 86 different kinds of trusts. We have a specific trust system in our house where we've got an LLC that we started, and that's the Apogee LLC. And that LLC is owned by a business trust. That specific business trust flows to a family trust. That family trust takes care of a certain amount of things in our, right? So there's a whole cash flow for our
Right.
family. My kids are a part of that. They get to watch how I operate. They get to watch how I move money, where the money comes from. They understand how I launch the LLC. They understand, right? They have that
Right.
financial literacy piece. Why do they have it? Because I have it and I just make them a part of it. It doesn't
Right.
have to be more complicated than that. So when we're helping families, this is how we're so different. When we're helping families, we're analyzing all of this and going, what are you bringing your kids through? And then we'll go, okay, and on top of that, what are some of the chores they have? What are some of the responsibilities they have? How do we build that in? How do we get them entrepreneurial experience? Not that they have to become entrepreneurs, but because there's so much learning that comes through the entrepreneurial experience. So how are we going to help your kids start a business? Okay, let's take a look at collaborative projects that are going to expose them to a bunch of different themes. We'll put projects together and give those to the families, but they're not doing it in a silo. We're bringing all the families together virtually or on a campus. We've got coaches that'll help the kids through those experiences. They act as kind of project managers. And we have coaches who parents as those projects are being worked out too. So you have all of this going on, right? And then we'll have things like book recommendations, and not just book recommendations like read it and take a test on it, but read it and let's have great Socratic conversations around it so we can actually pull the lessons out of it. And hey, do what books are meant to do, change your life by
Right.
showing you how to apply those
Right.
messages.
Right.
So we'll give you the Socratic conversation prompts and give you all those things that you can actually have valuable um, resources that are going to pull the best out of your family. So it's ridiculously comprehensive, obnoxious levels of support, just connect other families and so many coaches for so many things. We have like 15, 16 office hours a week just around support for the families that we support. It's kind of an obnoxious
That's a
level of
lot.
support
Yeah.
for the,
Mm.
yeah.
Well, I think you're touching on something that's, there's a reason why successful, well-to-do families tend to pass on important knowledge, like the knowledge you just said. I
Mhm.
mean, when you're a well-to-do, entrepreneurial family, I teach my kids, my business. I'm in real estate and I have other side businesses. And my son, who's only 8, knows everything about it in an
Yep.
8-year-old way.
Sure.
And so I think that's missing in schools big time because
Yes, sir.
I know friends that have come out of high school that can't even, balance a checkbook. You've heard
Yes,
all the
sir.
stories of people coming out and blowing their credit and
Right.
not knowing how to, and then so if you're teaching the parents along with the children, I think that's an interesting methodology and probably very effective.
And it's a simple concept. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it's a simple concept, right? And so again, so Josh, I'm assuming your 8-year-old speaks English.
Yeah. He does.
Right. Because you're speaking, I'm
Right.
assuming your 8-year-old doesn't speak Chinese.
No, he doesn't.
Because you don't speak Chinese. And you're not
Right.
exposed and you're not around people speaking Chinese. You're not integrating that into your daily life. Nothing against Chinese. It's just that's not
Right.
part of your.
Yeah.
So what I tell families is you make normal whatever you make normal. So if you
Right.
want a highly educated young person, you've got to first define what does that mean to you and your family? How do you continue to pursue that and bring them along with it?
Yeah, that's super liberating for some parents, because when you frame it like that, you've kind of flipped the system that we're in on its head, right? It's like, what does educated mean to you?
Mhm.
And so we're kind of in our system that we're in now, we're along for the ride. And we
That's
can,
right.
I don't know, we can push them here or there a little bit within that journey, but they're on that ride. And I think what you're providing is an option to design the ride. That's
That's the
powerful.
whole game, man. That's it.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Design the ride that you want, right? And
Yeah.
again, not saying that there's not some components that everybody needs. That's where those meta skills come in.
Right.
But education is wildly personal because life is wildly personal. Like
Yeah.
we're not gonna have the same. You're not gonna have the same life in Los Angeles as I am in the mountains of North Carolina. There's some things that are just inherently different. Like,
Yeah.
you're probably not having to worry about trees falling on your electric fence that's gonna allow your
Mm,
goats to get out.
nope.
Nope.
Although I kind of
So,
wish I
cool.
had problems like that. I'm
Well,
a
cool,
country
and
boy
then you
deep
can
down.
make that
Yeah.
choice,
Yeah.
right? And you can make that choice, and you can change that, or maybe somebody out here in my situation would be like, "Gosh, man, I'd rather just get to where we're not in a rainforest and get down to
Hmm.
LA where the weather's a little nicer all the time." Or like, there's always
Sure.
those things, but you're getting
Sure.
to design the ride.
Yeah, that's critically important. I know you guys speak, on masculinity often, and manhood,
Yeah.
and how we're walking, as a society, we're kind of moving away from that and acknowledging that as an important part of our existence. How strong of a I guess thread or vein is that in your teaching? And really touch on that, especially in the mentorship part, where I think that could make a big impact if people don't want to take the full commitment of homeschooling with you guys. But there's the mentorship program. What are the themes
Dude.
kind of around masculinity? I think it's a disaster what we're doing to our young men in this country.
Yeah.
But touch on how you guys view it, and what are some of the things that you do to help alleviate that pressure.
It's a great question, man. Yeah, even that term, the masculinity is like it's been co-opted to where it's almost culturally like um it's it's become this ping pong thing where everybody's got a different, definition of it. And we go, look, man, masculinity in and of itself is not too different than what we're talking about, where men are obligated to be the best versions of themselves. Don't make it more complicated than that. You inherently have categories that come out of it, but the classical definition that has always stood the test of time is how do you essentially become the best version of yourself? That encompasses everything. So when we take we take men through and young men through this journey, it is going, okay, what is the psychological component of this? How do you tap into your own psychology, gain some level of self-awareness on controlling, your emotions, your tapping into what your identity is. We talk a lot in this country about, well, discipline beats motivation, and you got to be disciplined. Okay, sure. But you know what makes it even easier than being disciplined is having an identity around things. I've never had a drink of alcohol. That's not that's not a pat on my back. It's just that's not anything I've ever done. I don't have anything against men who drink. I don't think it's inherently I don't think there's a net positive to it, but I'm not knocking anybody that doesn't have a problem and just, hey, a drink here or there. I'm not knocking you. What the point I want to make with it is I've never had one. So I literally identify as somebody who's never had a drink. So if somebody at a bar is just like, hey man, here's a beer for you, there's not even a temptation. I don't have to be disciplined there and be like, dude, I'm not really motivated, but I'm going to be disciplined and saying no. I just identify as somebody that doesn't drink. So it's
Right.
easy, right? As a man, when you identify with fill in the blank, it's just a parameter for your life. So we dive into what are the identities that you step into. That's where we always start. So my identity, me, Matt, you're talking to me right now. This is me, 100% me. But also, when I go upstairs and I see my wife, she's also getting 100% of me. But I promise you, Josh, my wife and I have a different relationship than you and I have.
Yeah,
Right?
I hope so.
But very much so.
Yeah.
But it's both. It's me. It's just the different identities of me as far as how I show up in the world, right? So we really hammer that home with our men to start. What are the roles you're showing up to in life? Let's identify that. And then let's design that too. That's what masculinity is. It's the man taking control of how do I become the best version of myself in all of the identities that I have to play in life. So we start there. And then we'll dive into things like your time and energy management, like keeping control of your schedule. A masculine man is going to try to control the schedule as much as he can control it. He's not going to be, sucked away by like, I quote unquote couldn't get this done because I had 3 hours of Netflix, or I had the game I had to watch, or no, what do you need to control your time and your energy around? The physical side of things, being physically, not just in shape, not just like hey bro, if you get a 6-pack, the rest of your life works out. That's BS. But you should be in shape, be capable, and be healthy. I'm 40. How old am I? 45. And yes, I can still see the abs. That's great. You know what I like better? Dude, I haven't been sick in like 10 years. Not even a freaking cold. That to me is more important because I can show up better for the people in my life that I'm serving. Right. And so then we'll dive into the spiritual pursuit. What does that look like? How are you actually pursuing your spiritual beliefs, and how are you testing those? How are you questioning those? How are you, making sure you're not getting dogmatic around it and actually seeing, do you believe what it is that you believe? Then we'll dive into the relationship components. How are you showing up to lead and serve your wives? How are you showing up to lead and serve your kids? How are you setting up a legacy for them in terms of tradition? How are you setting a legacy in terms of finances? How sovereign are you? If the shit hits the fan, can you provide food, water, shelter, no matter what? Hurricane Helene hit us out here a year ago. We were good on the farm if we had to be. Like, we were good. We couldn't get out, go anywhere, but we were good. We were growing our own food. We have where are you on
Sure.
that? How close to sovereignty are you on those things? So we dive into that full spectrum when we talk about masculinity and go, cool, how sovereign and free are you? How good of a leader are you? And we measure that by how much are you optimizing yourself in all those arenas.
Yeah, that's a really good answer, and I'm not just saying that because you're a guest on my show. I'll tell you why that's a brilliant answer. First of all, it's accurate. Second of all, it's not reactionary to the politicalization of what's happening, because a lot of folks want to take what's happening and flip it on its head and go crazy masculine, bumping chest. You got to be the alpha male and you got to dominate, and that's not what it is, right? So the brilliancy of that answer is that you're not being reactive. It's a thoughtful process, and I'm so glad to hear that, because a lot of folks, when they have a platform like yours and you have people that are listening to you and you're teaching, they tend to react to the society's the toxic masculinity thing and the politicalization of it. And I think your thoughtful approach to that actually shows that most of us think like you. I mean, we don't articulate it maybe as well as you just did and haven't put a program around it, but men need to be men, and that doesn't mean they need to go out and dominate and be alpha. Sure, some folks are like that, but in the most part, it's really about taking care of your family. It's really about helping your community. It's really about raising good kids and being responsible, and raising the next generation to be, to be well and to succeed.
And
That's what being a man is.
That's it. It's an honorable, it's living in an honorable fashion, right? Living in a committed fashion. You know, it's defining each one of those identities and showing up in the best version of that. I'm committed to my wife. So, but by modern standards, okay, cool, you're committed. So you have one wife and that's, you know, that's who you have. No, I'm committed to her, which means I'm going to show up to this podcast right now and speak to Josh, and I'm going to do the best that I can to serve Josh and his audience. That is still a commitment to my wife and my kids, because I'm showing up as the best version of myself in an area that still impacts them and still matters, right? I'm going to go, if I go out to eat, you know, at some point, I'm not going to go like, oh shit, I'll cheat on my diet today. I'm going to grab some fries and I'm going to go, no. I'm not honoring myself and honoring my body when I do that, which is a lower commitment also to them, because I'm not committed to sticking around and being the best version of them if I'm going to put that in my mouth. Like, that's the way I look at it, is just how much can you honorably lead and serve in every single thing that you do, not in a stressed out, like holier than thou, you've got to be like me. So that's ridiculous. What do I think is the best version? And how do I go, Josh, what's your best version as you define it? And how do I help you get that, even if it doesn't look the same as mine?
Right. Right.
Because
That's well
I'm
said.
arrogant
Yeah.
enough to think I've got all the answers. That's bullshit. That's ridiculous.
When you guys are, so that you have a mentorship for teens, and then you have a mentorship for dads. When
Yep.
you're doing the mentorship for dads, what do you, I mean, what are some of the themes there? Is it balancing, you know, toughness and tenderness, and how to raise kids kind of in this wacky world we're in? Is that part of it? What are some of the
Oh,
themes you touched on? I mean, I'm sure you touched on some of them, but what did we miss there?
that's a huge part. Yeah. So the map, I mean, the trajectory literally goes, the way we have it laid out is we do start with that psychological piece, the identity piece. So if we're taking a look at a focused month, because we have a whole year, a full year one, and then a year two that you can't get to year two unless you've gone through year one and we know who you are and how you show up. So that whole first year, it is around that personal psychology, the time and energy management, physical health, communication, and this then going into the spiritual pursuit, the marriage aspect, specifically around raising kids, around creating family traditions, around sovereignty and survival, sales and marketing, community leadership, financial prowess, and putting all of that together. So we've got these 12 months that go like this. Each one of those months has very specific projects and challenges that the guys are taking on. You're actually doing something and creating something that month. There are very specific books that we have associated with those. And then we have a platform where everybody's together. And then we have calls every single week where we will bring in a guest mentor that usually is speaking to that specific theme. Those mentors are a lot of the people you see on the site. They'll come in, you know, so one of those guys will come in each week. We'll have a conversation around that. We'll debrief around that and then dive into the work they are doing and anything else that they are struggling with or need help with. That's how the whole year is laid out.
Got it. That sounds actually really appealing. What is the format? So it's online, and then do folks have an opportunity to meet you guys in
And
person throughout that
oh
year?
yeah,
What is that like?
100%. So, really good question. So yeah, we meet together because we got guys all over the world, you know, predominantly US, but a ton in Canada, but then you can add a number of other, we got another 12, 13 other countries where we got guys, you know, here and there. So we do meet together weekly online. Obviously,
Mhm.
guys figure out, we've got a map of where people are located. So some guys realize, oh my gosh, I got guys right down the road or whatever, so they can get together physically.
Oh, that's cool.
We'll have local meetups in various places. Anytime we're traveling, we try to see if there's anybody around, anybody that comes out here to this neck of the woods. Like, we've got a headquarters where they can stay. So we got families that are staying at the Apogee headquarters all the time if they're in this neck of the woods. We'll have an annual reunion where we bring everybody together. So we'll have hundreds of people gather in Texas every year. And then we'll do various live events throughout the years in various places too. So we try to get that physical connection as much as humanly possible,
Yeah, yeah,
but
that's
we meet
important. Yeah,
virtually daily.
yeah, yeah. Nice. What about the outdoors? So this is something that I talk about a lot is hunting and fishing and all that stuff. And and I
Yeah.
think it's a part of our life as fathers and as men that we've kind of, at least in my neck of the
Yeah.
woods, probably not as much in yours, but that we've kind of moved away from. How much of
Yeah.
that kind of plays into your teaching and your mentorship?
Yeah. It's a good question, man. There's the 1 month, it's month 8 for us, where we really take a look at asking that question of how skilled are you in that arena and how skilled do you want to be in that arena. So we have a few projects and challenges around that in particular. And then guys are able to obviously go a little further down that rabbit hole, and we'll have guys that'll come in and help on that. From gosh, I mean, everybody from Mike Glover and the Fieldcraft crew, and Mike's not, with them anymore, but Kevin Estella has helped us quite a bit. Chad Mendez is a good buddy of mine. And so the hunting and fishing side, so he's come in and helped on some of that. We'll have survival related quests and challenges and projects with our kids on campus. That's a theme, and learning to build shelters and build fires and
Right.
so, yeah, I mean, we offer it up for people to dive in and see how skilled they are or are not.
Not, yeah, yeah. Most will be are not because it's a kind of a lost
Most are not.
skill. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. It's some of a lost skill, and it's so important. Rites of passage. I know that
Mm.
you've I think you've spoke on it. I have it in my notes that it is part of the program for children. Do you guys offer like rite of passage type programs and things for fathers to do with their daughters or sons?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So right now we've got fathers and sons rite of passage program. One of our Apogee men, who is an Apogee coach now, his name is Dan Smith. Dan has the Voyage Rites program that is underneath his umbrella, and that's what we use for our fathers and sons rites of passage. When we have some that are being built out for father daughters, we have some that are being built out for mother daughter, but it's also just a conversation that we have quite a bit too in terms of building out the traditions in your home. So one of those
That's right.
in that month 7, where we start talking about traditions, our families are going through it and they're creating what do we want the rites of passages to be in our lineage and for future generations? What are the traditions that we want? What are the certain things we want to celebrate at certain ages? How do we want those celebrations? I mean, they're going as far as to like mapping those out and trying to make these like generational legacies, and then including like putting them all in a book and including like a family crest and creating all these things that again, we've kind of lost as a society, and creating,
Right.
family mascot, family code, and family colors. And they put together, that's one of the projects
Oh,
that
I
they
love
do,
that.
is they put
Yeah.
together a book, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, before we wrap here, we got a few more minutes. Are there any books or anything that, and I know you have tons that you already said that you kind of introduce, but if you had to list off a few off the top of your head for dads to dive in, or even for teenagers or young adults.
Yeah, it's a good question, man. We've got a ton of books that are associated with what we do. So there's a million a million. There's a million to choose from. I'll give a few, but I'm going to do it with a caveat first, because one of the questions that I get quite a bit, whether it's emails or DMs or whatever, is, "Hey, especially for dads, like, what's the best book for a dad?" And I take people back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, right? If we are talking about education as a transfer of a way of life, then one of the thing, and we're talking about masculinity as optimizing yourself as a man, as a human being, then if those things are the lenses through which we're looking at the world, then the best book for a man, for a dad, is often going to be centered around the area that he needs to get better in to serve.
Sure.
Right. And so when
No,
somebody's like,
it's
"Hey, what's
fair.
the best book?" I'll get that a lot, where it's like, "What's the best book for my husband?" I'm like, "I don't know your husband, so I don't know." "Well, what's the best fatherhood book?" I don't know, because I don't know where it is that he needs to lead better. right? And so
Right.
that's change. The best book for him right now probably won't be the best book for him in 3 months or 6 months or 2 years,
No,
right?
that's right.
So
Yeah.
it's always like to just have people think through that, because I don't like giving blanket answers when blanket answers don't, provide the full nuance of what I think would be helpful. Um, that said, some of the books that are foundational for us in all of our programs, The Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman, is a phenomenal book, and it deals a lot with sports psychology. Todd helped like Kobe Bryant develop like the Mamba mentality, kind of thing. Uh, But it really touches on creating the identities that you want, like for all the fields of play that you show up in life. So that's a foundational book for us. James Clear's Atomic Habits is
Yeah, I
a
read that one. That's
foundational book.
great.
It's
Yeah.
it's a great book, man. One of the best. Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill is one of our foundational books for all of our programs. Most people know like Think and Grow Rich, which is another great book by Hill. Uh, I think for my money though, his best work was Outwitting the Devil. And doesn't matter if you come from a faith-based background or not.
Hmm.
That it doesn't matter. That's a phenomenal book. Um, yeah, I mean, those are a few of the favorites off the top of my head. We've got so many.
But yeah,
It's
I'm
a huge
sure.
part of what we.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So, before we wrap, what are you up to? Where are you speaking? I know you've been a two-time TEDx speaker. This
Mhm.
is being recorded in 2025. But what are you up to, and what's keeping you busy?
Yeah, we've got more and more campuses that are continuing to launch. So helping, people who want to bring these things to. We actually have somebody who just signed up in LA. I don't know what part of LA you're in, but we had a phenomenal educator who just signed on. So he'll be launching an Apogee LA campus. So every time we've got people that come in, we've got a whole team. We're pouring into them and making sure they understand how to run the business well. So we've got more campuses on the way. We have got. January, we launch our next men's and women's program. We've got a big competition for moms and dads that they're going to be able to go through. We've got an app that's going to be able to go along with that, where they're able to track their progress and actually kind of compete. So it's like Matt can compete to out dad Josh, and Josh is trying to out husband Matt. So it's
Nice.
pretty cool, man. And we're doing it in support of one another, but that's
Mhm.
part of the whole thing, which is pretty fun, man. So the next launch for the men's and women's programs will be in January. And then December, we got our reunion, which is also coupled with our celebrity fundraiser. So we got a bunch of celebs coming in. We got a big fundraiser day where we got shooting event and fitness event and kind of these mind games, and then we'll go into a dinner, and all of that is to raise money for scholarships for families, to send families to our campuses, and let them be able to pour into their kids, man. So yeah, we're never
Yeah.
hurting for anything to do over here.
Yeah, I bet. Well, you're a really busy man. I think you're doing a really good work. I love what you guys are preaching, and I encourage everyone to go to the website. It's apogeestrong.com. Am I getting that right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Apogee Strong,
Perfect.
apogeestrong.com, and you also have an Instagram handle, and I'll put all that in the show notes.
Thanks, brother.
Is there anything that else you wanna let folks know about?
I mean, that's where to go. And I'll just encourage anybody listening, man, is don't live in fear. We get conditioned to make a lot of decisions out of fear, and so we do live reactionary. And I just want to encourage people, especially parents, man, be more proactive. You can pick up the pen and write your story and write the story for your family, and it is very, very simple to do so. It is not easy, but it is usually very, very simple. You just gotta get outside of some of the fears that have been programmed into us. So just want to encourage people to do that, man. And I think the world will be a better place.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. I will certainly look into the mentorship program for my son and I. I think you guys are doing really good work, like I said. So thanks for coming, and good luck out there. Maybe we'll have you back on in a few years and catch up and see what else you guys are up to.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Josh.
Take care. Thanks for walking the last easy mile with me. If something in today's episode moved you, good. That means there's still something alive in you worth pursuing. But don't let it end here. Send the message, try the thing, start the shift. If this episode helped, like, subscribe, and share with someone else who might be feeling stuck. You never know who needs to hear exactly this. I'm Josh Farahi. Until next time, keep walking.